It's time for the Comic Bin Comic Book Podcast. The podcast you look forward to for all of your news and reviews of the best comic books hitting stands. Whether it's DC, Batman, Wonder Woman, Marvel, Spider-Man, Image, Spawn, Saga, Boom, Once and Future, Power Rangers, or whatever book or publisher you follow. We cover them all here. This is the place for you. That's right. It's for everyone. This is the Comic Bin Comic Book Podcast. Let's get it.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the Comic Bin Comic Book Podcast. I'm your host Theo. Got another great show lined up for you today. This episode, I am going to be sitting down and talking with comic book writer Mark London, who is also CEO and creative director over at Man Cave Studios. And he and I are going to talk about his new series, Honor and Curse Eternal. Honor and Curse Eternal #1 will be out on shelves this coming Wednesday, and he and I talked a little bit about the story behind it, and going into it, just reading issue #1 of this, I did not know that it was actually a spin-off of an earlier series that was just titled Honor and Curse. But he and I talked a little bit about what this story is about and where it's going in the future issues that will be coming out over the coming months. But after that, I'll come back. I'll give you my favorite books for this past week, New Comic Book Day, March the 18th. And we'll talk a little bit more about what's to come next. But here it is, my conversation with comic book writer Mark London, talking about Honor and Curse Eternal #1, which is out on shelves this coming Wednesday from Man Cave Studios. So I hope you enjoyed, and as always, I will see you all on the other side. Hey folks, it's Theo. I am sitting here with Mark London. Mark London is not only the Chief Creative Officer over at Man Cave Studios, but what we're talking about today is his new series coming out at the end of March on the 25th, Honor and Curse the Eternal #1. He'll be doing that with artist Jaime Infante over there at Man Cave Studios. Mark, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey Theo, thank you. Better now that I'm here with you so we can talk some comics.
Yeah, let's talk some comics. After a crazy week with Joint Commission and healthcare and everything, for all those healthcare folks out there, we hear Joint Commission and they shiver with fear. So before we get into Honor and Curse in particular, let's talk about Underworld, because this kicks off part 2 of
Correct.
The Underworld universe that you've created over there at Man Cave. So with that first series, we had Exit City, we had Hour of the Wolf, and we had Revolution 9, which was my favorite of the three, and they had their crossover to in part 1. So what can we expect with part 2? We're going to talk a little bit about Honor and Curse, but without revealing too much, if you can, what can fans expect with part 2? Because there's some mention of part 1 in this new series, but I'm assuming we're not going to see as much until we kind of get things built up a little bit more.
Correct, exactly. No, you couldn't have said it better, Theo. I mean, the next part is actually what's going to open up the universe. I mean, this is not just a crossover that we decided to do here. It's actually phase 2 is going to be 3 new books in the same fashion as we did with phase 1. So it's going to be something a little bit ambitious for an independent publisher, but it's going to be something that is going to take some folks, let's just say, by surprise, because it's going to be like, okay, these guys are actually going a little bit bigger. So it's I think that it's the next step, and I don't like to call the Underworld like a crossover or just a cheap gimmick. It's more like a saga. It's an interconnected universe. It's something that it plays homage to what I grew up with. That was basically just some wild crossovers over at Valiant, at DC, at Marvel. So I grew up with that stuff. So I thought that it was always super cool just to see different characters. I mean, just ending up at in, let's just say, in the same, playing all together in the same sandbox.
Yeah, and I remember when you and I met at San Diego Comic-Con, and it was right around the time we were getting ready to actually move into the crossover, you know.
Yes.
And I remember the first thing I said when Frank actually introduced me to you, and I said, "Damn you, Mark," 'cause the entire time I'm reading each of the three stories, and I'm like, okay, where's the connection? Where's the connection? Where's the connection? Because each cover has this big Underworld emblem on it, and I'm saying, where's the connection? Where's the connection? And then I get to this issue, and they're like, there's the connection, and I was like, thank you. And that connection was made in Revolution 9 when she mentions Exit City, and I'm like, yes. And so now we got the world coming together. Can we somewhat expect that to happen this time around as well?
Oh, for sure, for sure. Now, the three new series are basically just going to be referencing Exit City, Revolution 9, Hour of the Wolf. I mean, this thing is, again, it's an interconnected universe. So it's not going to be as complex that if you haven't read the whole thing, part of the beauty of what we did with Underworld and trying to come up with different, let's just say, series, it was so people could pick their flavor. As you well mentioned, that with phase one, we had Exit City, which was a little bit more like a noir detective piece. Hour of the Wolf was a little bit like a horror piece. And then Revolution 9 was your John Wick, I mean, straightforward action, an assassin on the run. So, hey, it's what do you want? What do you like? But if you manage to actually endure and be like, okay, I want to be taken for a ride here. I want to be, let's just say, a member of everything that you're building here. I mean, you're definitely going to enjoy it a little bit more. So definitely there's going to be little pieces or little Easter eggs that if you've been keeping up with the series, you're going to be like, oh, okay, I know her. Or, oh, they mentioned this. Okay, so cool. And then the payoff obviously is going to be much rewarding as each series develops further, or we keep on expanding on this interconnected universe.
So, and it's gonna be a little bit tough for me, and I want to thank Frank over at Mad Cave who provided me a preview copy to prepare for this. So let's talk a little bit about Honor and Curse, because with this series you really take it a different approach, because you start out way in the past, centuries ago, and we're going to feudal Japan, and we're looking at the original ninjas. And there's one in particular who is cursed. He's cursed with this demon, and this demon loves war. He loves to see blood and fights, and he's down for that. And he's cursed this ninja warrior by the name of Genshi. And with this curse, he's also made him immortal. And so we kind of start out in the past and we make ourselves to the present. Tell us a little bit about Genshi.
Well, he's not your typical protagonist. That he's not your typical immortal that has actually been running around 600 years and being actually doing battle left and right. He's actually, as you well said, Theo, I mean, he has been cursed by this demon that actually craves anarchy and war and bloodshed. But what Genshi has been doing for the past 600 years is basically just keeping him at bay, locked in at the back of his head, and living a quiet life. So Genshi hasn't been doing like any crazy stuff for the past 600 years. So when we start the issue, we kind of just like hint at what was Genshi's past, but we actually go forward and be like, okay, what has he been doing all this time? So we, little by little, we're learning that he basically just took it quiet, trying to control his curse and basically just live a normal life. But you nailed it by saying, I mean, you took it to another different, by taking this series in a different direction. Um, because here we're going to introduce the other side of a coin, which if phase one actually revolved around Order of Nine, which is kind of like your nut jobs interested in basically just devolving the world and taking it back to the Roman Empire beliefs and all that stuff. Here with Genshi, you're gonna meet the other side of the coin, which is Infinity Ultima, which is another secret society. But again, it's not the same thing as the Order of Nine. It's completely different. It's more like your techno-fascists that they just basically just want to bring technology to the world, and they want to come swinging, and that becomes urgent and relevant to the world that we're living today with all the things that we're having with the AI, etc. So there's a great bridge between the two secret societies, and by bringing in Honor and Curse into the mix, or bringing Genshin to the mix, you're having someone that comes from the past. Someone who comes from the past and actually is going to be your bridge to the future and introduce a new threat into Act 2 or Part 2 of the Underworld. So that way we differently decided to actually go with Genshi and start with him as an introduction to phase 2 for the Underworld.
Yes, I'm gonna do my best not to spoil anything, but I really enjoyed it. So when you really enjoy things, it's tough to not spoil it for everyone.
I love it.
Is she a hero? Is he the hero here for this story?
I would have to say yes.
Seeing that he's cursed with this demon, so is he a hero?
I would say yes. I think that he would. I mean, the series is called Honor and Curse. So the honor part is basically that oath that Genshi holds very close to his heart, and is like actually being one of these initial ninjas for the Iga clan 600 years ago. That's like the honor part. The curse is like we've been talking. It's the Tengu. It's that demon, that curse that creates war. So what we're gonna see here, it's a little bit of a progression of the character. And I think that he starts bringing so many of these questions to the table, like, okay, who is this character? What has he been doing? Why has he remained silent? And then we're going to take you on the ride. And then that question might be that answer will come sooner than later, Theo. So
seeing that Genshi is from feudal Japan, 600 years in the past. I'm assuming at some point throughout this series that we're going to get tidbits and bits of that in backstory. How much research did you go into looking at feudal Japan? Because I'm gonna tell you right now, I know little of it. When I think of ninja, I'm thinking of Storm Shadow and the mask and you know what I'm saying?
yes.
and the black gear. But when I looked at it and I'm like, okay, we're talking about feudal Japan, and I'm a history major, so I'm gonna put that out there. But I'm American history, so don't ask me about feudal Japan. I may know some English history as well. But when I started looking at it, I'm like, whoa, this is deep with just how far back the history of ninja goes.
There's something that I have to tell you, which is super, super important and relevant to your question, because we've been doing this whole publishing gig at Mad Cave for almost 12 years. And when we started the company, one of the original stories that came out of Mad Cave, that it was actually written by yours truly, was Honor and Curse. So those past series that actually we did almost like 10 years ago were the origins of Genshi. Where was his struggle? Was his story? Was where he comes from, the rivalry between the Iga clan and the Koga clan, and who are these people, and why is he the first ninja, and all the mythos and everything. So back in the day, I had to do a lot of research to try to get a lot of the feel for the original series, because the original series was really, really embedded in the culture of the ninja. So it was almost, you had to absolutely research feudal Japan, see what the first ninjas, see what all the folklore surrounding tengus and all these evil spirits. I mean, what do they mean to the Japanese culture? So there was a lot of research that I had to do back then. This time around, I'm just like taking a lot of the things that I learned back in the day and just fleshing it out a little bit more, trying to make trying to make the story relevant so it fits your modern setting. But yeah, all that rambling just to tell you that yes, there was a lot of research which had to be done for that series.
So let's talk a little bit about the creative team with Jaime Infante on art, with colors from Fran Gamboa. Were you looking for a particular style for what you were looking to do with this story?
Well, yes. When we wanted to actually get into the new development, if you take a look at the older series, it was very it would resemble probably your 90s style comic book. It was a little bit more like a Marvel book from back in the day. But now the way that we actually wanted to build it up was a little bit as I don't know if you read it or if you recall Frank Miller's Ronin. So it's a little bit, I mean, that was part of the inspiration for it. Also a little bit of Berserk back in the day. So a little bit of Sin City style there. So I actually took a lot of cues from Frank Miller. And then when Mike Martz, I cannot take all the credit for actually finding Jaime and for the series. It was actually Mike Martz that I think that he's ability for this stuff. I call him the artist whisperer because he basically just like has always the perfect fit for most of the projects that we're trying to build at Mad Cave. So he gave me a few choices, but then he was like, hey, listen, I think that Jaime is your guy. I think that he can truly bring to life what you are actually trying to do here. And Jaime's, he has a medical background. He was doing anatomy, and he was doing all great things. I mean, for medical journals, and so his background is just insane, Theo. So when I just saw his portfolio, I was like, oh man, I'm blown away. Okay, definitely sold. So I think that he brings this finesse to the series, and his arts are his pencils are so tight that it was just dream come true, because it was everything that actually I wanted for the series and more.
So, and I would think that someone who is familiar with anatomy would be absolutely wonderful when it comes to movements and styles, especially if we're talking about ninja fighting and swords with katanas, just being able to take those motions. And yeah, you can see it, especially once you get to the end of the issue when, again, not spoiling, but yeah, you really see it come to life. And again, I absolutely, again, not someone that I'm just going to say this. Genshi reminds me of a reluctant hero. Okay. You know, that you know, he's staying, and the press release about the story really says it best. He's just trying to do his penance and stay in peace and just be quiet. He's that reluctant hero. And by the time you get to the end of the story, you know, you kind of get where the curse part comes into play, and it comes into play in several ways. So I really enjoyed it. It's so tough to talk about it because it's not out yet. But By the time Honor and Curse ends and you start on the second and third story, which I'm pretty sure you're working on already, but by the time Honor and Curse the Eternal ends,
Mhm.
what do you expect fans to remember going as we continue this build of Underworld?
Mhm. I think that the most important is the part of the honor and the curse, precisely for where you're what you're asking, or what you asked me previously. I mean, is Genshi a hero? Is he a reluctant hero? Is he a torture hero? Is like he might have an actual demon inside of him, but sometimes we do have invisible demons. I think that we all struggle with that. I think that we all have that quiet voice inside of us that tries to get us to a darker path, and sometimes how you overcome that darker path. Here, obviously, you're just trying to make it into a story, make it into something entertaining. But I think that the invisible ink is there. It's like, okay, how do you handle something that wants to take control over you and wants to take control over you and wants to either make you fail, but because the the Tengu is feeding on his most primitive instincts, and he wants to see blood. So, do you succumb to that, or do you fight it, or are you basically just going to use it to do good? So, without spoiling it, where everything is going to lead to, it's that's going to be the struggle. That's going to be something that I want the readers to actually um, take away from this series. It's like, okay, how do you take control of something that it's so powerful? And in this case, again, it's a real demon, but what if your struggle was different? How are you going to overcome it? How are you going to take that and use it for good? That's it, I think.
And usually I ask when new series come out to sell it that one last time to readers, but
Mhm.
I think you just did a good job of doing just that. But I guess I can ask this: who is who is this story for? Other than those who read Underworld and want to continue in that universe, if someone
Mhm.
has never heard of Underworld and
Mhm.
and and they see this on the shelf, what makes them pick it up?
Well, I think that is for people that love John Wick, people that love Venom, people that love Blade of the Immortal, people that love Frank Miller's Ronin. I think that that's a story for you. If you like fast-paced action sequences, or beautiful art, well-paced story, with a lot of twists and turns, I think that this is the story for you.
All right. So again, it is Honor and Curse, the Eternal #1. It is on shelves everywhere. March 25th, 2026. I already have my order in. FOC has passed, but if you order from online shop like DCBS, you can still put your orders in for March books, some March books. But I'm excited for this, and again, this is book one of part two of Underworld. So I can only imagine how many phases do you have in the back of your head how big you want Underworld to be, because this is your baby.
Well, for uh, they're probably gonna kill me for telling you this, but for two of the books that are coming out in part two from the Underworld, they're gonna be 12 issues,
Oh
and
wow!
all 12 issues for Honor and Curse are done, Theo.
Oh
So
wow!
there's not going to be, yes, we're working super ahead of time. The other book that we have for Underworld, we're already well into issue 5. The other book is just starting issue 4. That's going to be a 5-parter, but like we just announced today, all the first titles of the Underworld, Revolution 9, Exit City, and Hour of the Wolf are continuing. Exit City is being written by my good friend Rich Duick, and actually Revolution 9 is going to be written by Steve Orlando. And I'm going to continue, yes, and I'm going to continue working on Hour of the Wolf for the next arc of those series. So We have a lot of issues on the back of our heads. We're also already hard at work on part 3 of the Underworld, Theo, which is going to follow the same structure as part 1 and part 2, which is 3 new series on top of that. So probably that's going to be for next year. So it's I'm just having too much fun with this, and I just want people to have fun in what we're building, what we're doing, and hopefully it pays up at the end.
Yeah, and Mike, please don't kill your boss. Because let me tell you, every creator that I have interviewed for a Mad Cave story has just the world to think of the work that Mike does for you guys. And I don't, Mike, please don't hurt Mark, because we need him at least until Underworld is done. Okay. So that means you just gotta phase after phase after phase, just keep it going. So yeah, I'm excited for it, and I'm even more excited, again, to hear it first. And I'm gonna definitely email Steve Orlando and say, because if he doesn't have some wrestling tidbits in Revolution 9 when this new volume comes out, yeah, he and I are gonna have a match, because I know that Steve Orlando, like myself, is a fan of professional wrestling. I grew up in it, going all the way back to the 80s, but that's my old ass. But again, Mark, thank you so much. How can fans keep up with you? Not only with Mad Cave. Again, Mad Cave has been around for over a decade, but over the past few years has really been one of my favorite publishers, and I've just been enjoying whether it's Dick Tracy, whether it's Gotcha Man, whether it's Speed Racer, and I'm just all over it. I just read volume 5 of Infinity Force. You all have been doing some great stuff with not just your original things, but also the partnership that you all have had with Tatsunoko. It's just, I've just been loving it. So other than Mad Cave and Mad Cave's website, where can fans keep up with what you're doing yourself?
The best part is the best place. I'm sorry, not the best part, but yeah, it could be the best part. But the best place is just to subscribe to our newsletter. I think that's when you go into our website, or if not, follow us on your preferred social media platform. We're in all of them. We're on X, on I refuse to call it X. I mean, we're on Twitter, we're on Blue Sky, LinkedIn, Substack.
You're not alone.
All Instagram, Facebook. I mean, pick your poison, and hopefully, I mean, you can see, I mean, what we're working on, what's releasing, where we're teasing. I have a Substack channel, so if you guys want to join that, I try to keep up regularly with it, trying to announce different series, what we're working on, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, I mean, I think that we have a wide presence. And conquering the world little by little, Theo.
Yeah,
not easy.
I absolutely love it. And again, as someone growing up in the 80s, when I started seeing Gotcha Man, and I started seeing Speed Racer, and I started seeing Dick Tracy and Flash Gordon, I'm just like,
yeah,
I need more. My old ass need more of it. But I'll have links to Mad Cave's socials in the show notes, so please take a visit, subscribe to the newsletter. Again, the past few years, I've just been on cloud 9 with the stuff that Mad Cave has been putting out, and I've had the pleasure of having multiple guests from Mad Cave on the show, from Jeremy Adams to Steve Orlando to Cullen Bunn to Tommy Lee Edwards. I've had them all, and every time an announcement comes out, I'm emailing. Okay, I need them. I want them on the show. And so when this opportunity came up, yes, again, Joint Commission notwithstanding, I had to make it happen to get Mark on here as well. So before I go real quick, so Tales from the Road, Speed Racer. I can't let you go without talking about Tales from the Road, because are we going to get some more of that? Because I've been missing Tales from the Road. What's going on with Speed, at least outside of what David Pepos is doing?
Well, David is doing the main title, which is Speed Racer. I don't know if you're aware, but Mark Russell is doing Racer X. And Tales from the Road, it basically just comes quarterly. So that's why you're seeing that there's basically just a gap. But also, you heard it here first. Mike, don't kill me. But again, it's Theo, so we have to let him know. We're also coming for a mini for Trixie. For the you see, it's good when you guys invite me to certain shows. I spill the beans. So yeah, Trixie's coming. So yeah, we want to give fans again. I also grew up in the 80s. I also love wrestling. So again, all these properties, everything. So I really want to just bring the best possible creative teams and just keep on giving you guys more of a Speed Racer. So Tales from the Road. I wrote the first one, which I basically just told I was busy with the Underworld and working on other projects, but I was like, guys, Speed Racer is a dream of mine. Can I please take the quarterly, just one? I'm not going to commit to the main series or Racer X. Or they're far talented, more talented guys than I. But please let me play in that sandbox. And then Cass, which is the Speed Racer editor, I mean, he was like, okay, let's do it. It's an oversized issue, and which David Pepos he wrote 6 pages at the back of it from Chim Chim. And Speed's Day Off. So that was a welcome addition. But I just had to do it. I just had to be part of it in some small capacity. But the Tales from the Road, it's released quarterly, so that's why you don't see it so often on the shelves. But I think it has so much potential, right?
Oh, it's always interesting, especially when there's an ongoing, to get something that's, I would say, just outside the box. You know, because Tales from the Road is a different look at what a world of Speed Racing might look like. So, you know, David is doing what he's doing in the main Speed Racer story, and we got what we got from Mark Russell with Racer X, and this new approach with how Racer X came to be who he is and how he's doing what he's doing. But, you know, Tales from the Road, because it's not in continuity, it kind of reminds me of Tales from the Dark Knight, the anthology that DC was doing, or even Black and White, you know, something that doesn't come out regularly, but can just give you some out of the box different stories of some of the things, some of the heroes that you're following. And without a doubt, Speed and Racer X are both heroes. And at me if you have a problem with that. But yeah, and like I said, when it was first announced, before the first issue came out, I was really excited about it because I knew it wasn't within continuity. It was something different, and getting something different is always a good thing because it just gives you a different viewpoint, a different approach to a character that won't mess up what's going on in the main universe.
Correct, Theo. And again, I think that's the beauty of Mad Cave. I think that's what we've been doing, either with homegrown properties or creator-owned properties or licensed properties. I mean, that we try to actually give fans more from all different angles. So at the end of the day, it's like, okay, pick your poison. What are you into? Do you like horror? Do you like action? Do you like comedy? Do you like noir detective? Do you like weird? I mean, we have all those titles that can really, really satisfy your appetite depending on what you want. So a lot of people is like, oof, I really don't want, for some reason. I mean, I don't want to dive into the main series, which I highly recommend somebody that is going to pick up Speed Racer or Racer X should do. But if they're like, oh, let me just get a glimpse of what you guys are doing, whatever, then we have Tales from the Road, which is like, again, like a one shot, kind of like your story that is not set in continuity, as you clearly stated. But it gives you a little bit of a snippet on the character, and if you find it interesting, maybe you can go back and then spend more time with the main series or with the Racer X series. So
yeah, you guys at Mad Cave are just killing it, and you're also killing my bank account, because when you consider when you consider Speed Racer, Gotcha Man, Racer X, and when you consider Temporal that just finished from Stephanie Williams, when you consider Bitch Planet, yeah, it can wreak havoc on anyone's wallet. So, but thank you. That means you guys are doing it right, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. But as always, I'm not gonna let you leave without doing what I do to everyone. I'm gonna put you through the fun thing that we call rapid fire. And as
Mm-hmm.
always, two choices, no right or wrong answers. Ready?
Ready.
All right. First up, Gundam or Robotech?
Gundam.
Okay. Power Rangers or Voltron?
Power Rangers.
Okay. Moon Knight or Batman?
Batman.
Okay. Tim Drake or Damian Wayne?
Damian Wayne.
Pikachu or Charmander?
Pikachu.
Okay. G.I. Joe or Cobra?
Cobra.
All right. All right. You've been hanging around with Joshua Williamson. I know that. Last one. Last one. Batman the Animated Series or Justice League Unlimited?
um, Justice League Unlimited.
Okay, Justice League Unlimited is extending its lead. That's the one I give to every guest. And Justice League Unlimited started out with a bang. Then Batman the Animated Series made a comeback.
Mm-hmm.
But now Justice League Unlimited is starting to exude its dominance. So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's now in the lead by 3. Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mark London, Mad Cave Studios. Thank you so much for joining me here on the Comic Ben Comic Book Podcast. This has been fun. Again, the title is Honor and Curse Eternal. Again, it's on bookshelves March 25th. Comic shops everywhere. Get out there and support Mad Cave or get it digitally as well. Mark, thank you so much for joining me. I truly appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you, Theo. Thank you so much.
So again, I want to thank Mark London for joining me on this week's show. Honor and Curse Eternal #1 is out on shelves this coming Wednesday from Mad Cave Studios. Pick it up if you haven't pre-ordered it. Get head to your comic shop and pick it up. It's a great jumping on point, even if you are like me and have never read any of the previous Honor and Curse titles that have come out in the past. I truly enjoyed it. It was a very good story, and I'm looking forward to reading the rest of it once it releases from Mad Cave. They're just putting out so much stuff that I'm reading these days. Yeah, it's hurting the wallet, but that's okay. They put out some good stories, and I truly enjoy it. But with that being said, before closing things out, I want to talk about my top books from this past Wednesday. And there was just so much that I read in terms of new titles. So much so that instead of doing my top 5, I am going to do a top 10. And so with that being said, let's check them out. Okay, so as I mentioned, there's so much stuff that I read this weekend, I couldn't come down to a top 5. So I am going to give a top 10. In the number 10 spot, something that I was not expecting to enjoy as I was putting titles together for reviews for this week. But the book in my number 10 spot, Dead Teenagers #1, over at Ani Press, written by June Ellison Doyle with art from Caitlin Yosky. This is like Groundhog Day meets Final Destination. A group of teenagers go out to the prom and they die, and they come back and they die again, and they come back and they die again, and it's just over and over. But something breaks that cycle, which will make the whole story come, to a full point of just understanding. So, yeah, was quite surprised about how much I enjoyed this title, and the art was really good as you again watch these teenagers, and again each time there was a different way to die. and it was just a fun story, and that says a lot considering the fact that I'm not the biggest fan of horror and thrillers. So just the fact that I enjoyed it, had to put it in my top 10. In the number 5 spot, over at Dark Horse Comics, American Caper number 5 from Dan Houser with art from Laszlo. So Eva finally reveals, what happened between her and hubby Emilio, and the fact that she killed him. And not only did she kill him, chopped his head off. And the funniest thing about that, not the fact of her killing her husband, who of course is this cartel leader more or less, but the fact that the gang is worshiping his head, to this day, as it rots in this shrine that they've built for him. Yeah. Weird, to say the least. But yeah, it was actually a fun story. This is actually my first time reading American Caper, so I'm going to go back and read the other 4 issues as well. Again, really enjoyed it. But yeah, it was a fun book, just reading all of that happened throughout the issue, from the standpoint of her getting harassed in the drugstore to how she was able to get out of it. But yeah, enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. It was a fun story. To say I read it for the first time. In the number 8 spot, Batwoman number 1, written by Greg Rucka with art from Donnie. So first off, on the art, I was not always a fan of Donnie's art, and then I started to come around maybe 2 or 3 years ago and really started to enjoy her style of art. And so yeah, I really dig it, from the main cover to the story, the interior art itself. But from the story point itself, we get a different type of Kate than what I remember from Greg Rucka when he was writing her story in the pages of Detective Comics years ago. But oh yeah, this is going to be fun. Just seeing how this is a different type of Kate. I remember when I read it the first time, as I was prepping the title for the website to review over at the Batman universe, and the only comment that I was able to put was that Kate may have lost her mind, and I absolutely loved it. And so yeah, I've read the second issue as well, and I think that's just going to be the most insane one yet, and I say that in all the good ways possible. So yeah, truly enjoyed it. But that is my number 8 book for this week. Again, Batwoman number 1 from Greg Rucka and Donnie over at DC Comics. In the number 7 spot, Roots of Madness number 5 from Stephanie Williams with art from Letizia Condanisi. I'm hoping I'm not murdering her last name, over at Ignition Press. And if there's one thing that I really hate about this issue, is that it's the penultimate one, which means there's only one more left. But this has been, again, just one of those stories that I did not think I would have enjoyed, or I did not think I would enjoy as much as I did. And yeah, I remember when Steph and I first started talking about this series, when we were meeting at Heroes Con last year in Charlotte, North Carolina, and not knowing much about it, as we were preparing for San Diego Comic-Con, and so I hadn't seen much of the press that had been out about it, but she was giving me the gist of the story, and then once it came out, I just truly fell in love, and I am hoping to get her on the show really soon before that final issue come out, so that we can just prepare everyone for what's to happen. Again, if you're not reading Roots of Madness, it's a wonderful story. Just in everything that it's in there, from the story itself to the art, and especially the cover from Juliet Ninka. I've enjoyed every single one of them that she's done throughout this series. So yeah, that's my next book, Roots of Madness number 5, from over at the folks at Ignition Press. Now, next book in my top 10, Planet She-Hulk number 5, written by Stephanie Phillips with art from Aaron Kuder over at Marvel Comics. So we kind of get a little full circle with this story. We've been seeing bits and pieces of the Thousand Eyes that have been going around on Cardinal Info. But we now get a reveal that the main assassin that's been going about from the Thousand Eyes is actually Eloy Coffey. And if you can remember that character, she was a member of the Hellbound that teamed up with Hulk during his time on the original Sakaar right before World War Hulk. And so we see that circle, and what's going to be interesting to see how this comes to an end in issue number 6, where we see they're now pushing Jen to take her place on the throne, that the only way to keep Sakaar in order, not necessarily at peace, but in order, is for it to be ruled by a Hulk. And since it seems like Bruce is not coming back, it's now up to Jen to do that. So she's resistant, of course, but we shall see whether or not that will get into place. And so my number 5 book, we now get into the top 5. Kill All Immortals 2, number 3, from Zach Kaplan with art from Fico Ocio over at Dark Horse Comics. So we see another Asval. We see an Asval fall. We see Leaf fall at the hand of Genghis Khan. But as I sort of expected, his daughter ended up turning on the Asvals after playing a ruse on him that, of course, Genghis put into place. So the tree wasn't there where they were expecting to find it. So there was no way that Eric could take control of it, and there was no way for Frey to burn it down. So Genghis Khan kind of had it all planned out and had them all surrounded. And so now we shall see what happens in the next issue, whether or not Eric or Frey are able to get their revenge for the loss of Leaf being taken down. But again, I've enjoyed all the volumes of Kill All Immortals. So, I remember when speaking with Zach Kaplan at New York Comic Con, after this second volume is done, I'm hoping we see more to come. There are plenty of ways and plenty of historical figures that can be made immortal. So we will see, as this one comes to an end, we will see what happens, and we see who else he can bring to life immortal with Kill All Immortals. But yes, that is my number 5 book, Kill All Immortals Volume 2, number 3, from Zach Kaplan and Fico Ocio over at Dark Horse Comics. In the number 4 spot, The Ultimates, number 22, written by Dennis Camp with art from Juan Frigeri over at Marvel Comics. So we get the battle. Grand Skull versus Captain America. Steve and Bucky finally meet face to face, and they have their battle. I'm not going to tell you how it ends, but yeah. I kind of wasn't expecting it, but considering this universe, I can also see it happening in the hands of Steve Rogers. But yeah, it was a great story, and as we are getting closer and closer, we only have 2 more issues left in this series as Ultimate Endgame is also going on. So we shall see how things turn out with everything that is going on in the Ultimate Universe, with everything that's happening. You know, we've seen how Ultimate Spider-Man has ended, but I can see the Ultimates ending somewhat different. I don't know if it will be as happy an ending as we got with Ultimate Spider-Man. I just will say that if we don't see the death of Banner, I'm gonna be quite upset. That if no one else within the Ultimate Universe dies, yeah, he of all of the Makers Council, he has to go. So we shall see if Dennis Camp or if the pages of Ultimate Endgame allows that to happen. But again, that is my number 4 book, The Ultimates number 22 from over at Marvel Comics. Alright, so let me just say, the top 3 really could have been interchangeable with their place. I really enjoyed all 3 of these titles so much that I could put them in any order and I still would be okay with it. But in the number 3 spot, Wonder Woman number 31 from Tom King with art from Daniel Sampere. This is the beginning of the Wonder War, and I never expected John and Damian to meet their end the way that they did, especially considering that they allowed it to happen, all for this ultimate plan that Lizzie and Diana are putting together to take on and to take down Matriarch. But yeah, it happened. So I'm definitely on board to see what's next in this battle between Lissa and Lizzie and Diana. I thought the story that began the issue with how Lizzie and Lissa grew up together was really interesting, especially considering the ways in which they were both brought into the world. But yeah, we shall see how it turns out as this plan from Diana is put into place. But again, number 3 title, Wonder Woman number 31 from writer Tom King with art from Daniel Sampere over at DC Comics. All right, the number 2 book. And if you haven't read Transformers, then you're not really going to understand this one as well. But if you're a big Energon fan like I am, I'm pretty sure you have. But my number 2 book from this past week, G.I. Joe number 20 from Joshua Williamson with art from Andrea Milana over at Skybound Image. So we finally get the meeting of Duke and Optimus. Now, again, this is Optimus, not Optimus Prime. So we know that this meeting of the two occurs after the pages of Transformers number 20, in which Optimus gives up, or he basically loses the spark of leadership to Elita 1, and she has returned to Cybertron with a group of Autobots to continue the war that's been going on for millennia there. But we see Duke and Optimus meet for the first time. They come to a meeting of the minds of, say, Duke reveals how much he has hated the robots that have been found on Earth ever since he witnessed Starscream killing his friend back in the pages, the early pages of Duke. So yeah, this was a great story, and I really enjoyed it. I was not expecting the meeting to happen the way it did as soon as it did. But again, the universe has been crossing so many ways between G.I. Joe and the Transformers that it was obvious that Duke and Optimus would meet one day. Duke has already, of course, witnessed Starscream and, really wanted to kill him. But, of course, we know that that's not going to happen. The fact that Duke and Optimus were able to meet and Duke not try to destroy Optimus was a good feeling. I was happy to see it happen. But again, that is my number 2 book over at the Energon Universe, G.I. Joe number 20 from Joshua Williamson and Andrea Milana over at Skybound Image. All right, so my number 1 book. And so quite honestly, this was something that I would not have ever expected to see at the top of my list, mainly because I haven't enjoyed much of the previous issues for one reason or another. But my number 1 book for this past week, Superman Unlimited number 11, with art from Lucas Maya, written by Dan Slott over at DC Comics. And yes, it is my number 1 book simply because Superboy, 10-year-old John Kent is back. And the way that it's being written, that this is OG John Kent, this isn't some clone, or this isn't some different universe, multiverse John Kent that has come back. But this is basically the John Kent that left with Jor-El back in the pages of Superman during Brian Michael Bendis' run, has returned, and he's returned, thanks to this beast who is apparently the monster of time, who was able to tear a fragment of time, reach in, pull John out, and return him to the present. Whether or not this will remain to be status quo and we get Little John back for good, I don't know. Knowing that it's Dan Slott, I don't have high hopes, especially in the hands of DC. But yeah, until it happens, I'm going to enjoy it while I can. We also see grown-up John drop the moniker of Superman and take up one of his own as Tomorrow Man, or Man of Tomorrow, and that was really interesting. All it took was this verbal beating from this Time Master to get John to figure that if he's going to get out of the shadow of his dad, the best way for him to do so would be to have a name of his own. And so that name he chose was Tomorrow Man. And the suit is quite interesting as well. It has a little bit of if you can remember from just recently in World's Finest, there was that combination of Superman and Batman. It kind of have little hints of that, with the color scheme. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how young John and Tomorrow Man John and how they get along, especially once we get into the other pages of the other Superman titles. So, we know that this reign of the Superboys event is going to be going on for a few months. And this was the first part of it. So, yeah, but just the fact that we got supposedly OG little boy John Kent back in the pages of DC Comics is more than enough to put you in my top spot. Again, whether it stays there depends on what happens in the end. I kind of think it is far too late for the greatness that was Super Sons back in the day to ever come back. I think the last chance would have been doing Philip Kennedy Johnson's run on Superman when he originally wanted to bring young John back, and that was kind of nixed due to the events of Son of Kal-El from Tom Taylor. But we shall see how it plays out. It's going to be hard to see how 10-year-old John Kent fit into today's DC, especially considering that his best bud, Damian, is several years older now. He's a 14, 15-year-old kid now in high school, and John is kind of stuck where he kind of left. He may have aged a year or so, but we shall see what happens with this story as the reign of the Superboy event continues over at DC Comics. But again, that is my number one book from this past week, Superman Unlimited number 11 from Dan Slott and Lucas Meyer over at DC Comics. And so, there you have it, my top 10 from this past week. And that ends our show for this week. I want to thank you all for joining in. And again, I want to thank Mark London for joining me in on podcasts as well. Next time, I'm going to be looking at some more titles. I don't have any interviews lined up just yet. I'm working on getting some scheduled in the coming weeks. But again, I want to thank you all for joining me. Really enjoyed the support that you all have been giving the show over the past few episodes. We're now surpassed 2,200 subscribers on the podcast on our YouTube channel. I truly appreciate and thank you all for joining and supporting me. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already. It's your first time listening in, and make sure you get notified when new episodes are available. But yeah, I will see you all next week, and thank you all for your support. But until next time, as always, keep reading those comics. That is going to do it for this episode of the Comic Ben Comic Book Podcast. I'd like to thank you all for your continued support of the program. The Comic Ben Podcast, as well as the Comic Book Spot, are a part of the Comic Book Source family of sites and media. You can follow the podcast on Twitter X at comic_Ben, or my personal account at BatmanFan_4life. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads. We're all over social media. You can also follow our sister site over at thebatmanuniverse.net for all of your news and reviews in the world of Batman. Tune in next time as we give you more in the world of comic books. Again, we truly appreciate your support. But until we meet again next time, keep reading those comics.